Executive Platinum, Emerald, Sapphire.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Crew Travel right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I'm very pleased to welcome back the gallant Lee Harris. How are you?
I'm very good and feeling very gallant as well, Ria, I've got to say. So I think it's a good choice of word this week. And I know what it means. So all good.
I'm really excited about that because I actually did do a Google search on words that expressed someone who is well-traveled. And I'm not sure that gallant actually fits into that, but according to Google, it does. And okay. I thought, well, at least Lee will understand that word.
Indeed. That's right. It's one of the very few that I do understand.
That's my goal for 2022, is to make sure that you understand every word that I use.
You do know that means we're going to have to dumb down this show quite considerably.
Yes. No. I mean, of course not, Lee. Of course not.
No.
Right. Of course, as per usual, it's just up and down and all the way around. Let's start off with the UK.
Yeah, so earlier this past week, the UK government has decided it's going to scrap its policy of requiring pre-departure travel tests. This means that fully vaccinated individuals now do not have to provide evidence of a negative COVID-19 test before boarding a flight to the UK. Of course, testing for arrivals will remain, though the rules for this have also become more straightforward. For fully vaccinated arrivals, they do not need to self-isolate and will only need to take a private lateral flow day 2 test. NH tests are not accepted, by the way, they're still not accepted. However, unvaccinated arrivals will still face more substantial restrictions, which could include quarantine.
All right, and France has some news.
They do indeed, yeah. The French government has announced that the travel restrictions imposed against travellers from the United Kingdom will soon be eased. After the cabinet meeting, which was held on January the 5th, a spokesperson for the French government said that the authorities have decided to expand the list of compelling reasons under which the UK travellers are permitted entry to France. It wasn't revealed when the eased entry restrictions would enter into force or which persons would be permitted to reach France. Such an announcement to ease the travel rules for Britons comes after the increased COVID-19 infection cases within France. Previously, France decided to prevent the further spread of the Omicron variant within its territory by restricting entry to those travelling from affected countries. However, since the Omicron infection cases in France have reached almost the same level as the UK, the authorities think that it's no longer needed to keep tightened entry rules. It is expected that the entry rule might be eased starting from today, Monday, the 11th of January. Obviously, as soon as we hear confirmation that it has been eased, obviously I'll let you know on my LinkedIn and on Blue Marine Travel's webpage.
Well, and considering it's the Caribbean season, not such good news out of Air Canada this week. And it's only 25 minutes old, this news.
It is pretty much, yeah. The news came out around about half an hour ago, but Air Canada is suspending flights to 15 warm weather destinations until April the 30th. Attributing the suspension to the current pandemic context, Air Canada says it will operate only some one-way flights from the targeted destinations, but only to get Canadians home. So scratched from the Air Canada timetable from January 24th until the end of April are flights to Antigua, Aruba, Samana, Curacao, Exuma, Grenada, Puerto Plata, Santo Domingo, Bermuda, Grand Cayman, Havana, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Martin, and St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's quite a whole host of Caribbean countries, islands. Unfortunately, it is going to make things a little bit more difficult for the Caribbean season.
Wow. I don't know. I mean, I sort of thought by now we wouldn't be seeing such blatant cancellations straight across the board. But I did see a news story. I think it was yesterday. There was a party planner that planned a trip to Mexico for a bunch of Canadian influencers. And of course, the influencers took all sorts of photographs while they were in the air on board a Sunwing flight. And of course, it was alcohol, partying. There was no masks. They were vaping. Everything that goes against every standard that any of us are, going by. And shocker, some of them tested positive for COVID when they got to Mexico. And now they're all bemoaning the fact that they can't get back home because nobody will fly them back.
Who would have thought it, hey? That they didn't follow the rules and they caught COVID. Who would have thought? Yeah, I mean, some people just think that the rules don't apply to them. I mean, we were talking off air with regards to a certain tennis player in Australia. Yeah, you know, unfortunately, if you don't follow the rules, the chances are you're going to come unstuck somewhere along the line.
Well, they're going to have to swim.
I'm sure they'll be fine.
Should be interesting. Hong Kong, what's going on there?
Yeah, Hong Kong have banned flights from the UK and 7 other countries for 2 weeks as of Saturday, January 8th. This is again amid fears about the spread of the Omicron variant of COVID-19. The government said the grounding of flights is due to the rapidly worsening global pandemic situation, and the number of imported cases involving the Omicron variant has been continuously rising in Hong Kong recently, and there are signs of local community transmission and spreading. As such, they've decided to add more stringent inbound control measures at this time, which means that flights from the UK, Australia, Canada, France, India, Pakistan, the Philippines, and the US have all been cancelled for 2 weeks. Furthermore, travellers who have stayed in these countries for more than 2 hours will also be restricted from boarding a passenger flight to Hong Kong.
What happens if your flight gets delayed?
A good question. I'm guessing you're going to be stuck. You're not going to be getting on that flight. Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a complete nightmare again. Hopefully it is only for 2 weeks. We shall see. But it's just the way of the world at the moment, isn't it? Another country who are banning flights. Well, I
mean, that's more than likely that's going to happen with something like Air Canada canceling as many flights as they're canceling. And that always has a knock-on effect. It doesn't matter what airline it is. It doesn't matter what country it is. We have this grid of air traffic that used to operate like a clock. You know, every now and then they would add in a new flight pattern, but that would have to be carefully planned through everything. So when flights start getting canceled, especially when everything is sort of timed in order to meet up, it throws everything out of whack.
It does, yeah. It makes things a lot more difficult, that's for sure. Especially at the moment, US and Canada. I think it was last week or the week before we spoke about JetBlue having to cancel 15% of their flights due to crew catching COVID and all the rest of it. Again, this week, I know there's more airlines that have had to cancel in the US. It's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly. I think it's United who have had to cancel 10% of their domestic flights. Another carriers had to cancel 15% of their. Southwest Airlines, I think, is cancelled 15%. And like you say, it's then the knock-on effect with that as well, because then it's the positioning of the aircraft, it's everything else. So even when they get back up to the levels they should be, it's going to take time to get to a point where it's going to be running like clockwork once again.
Well, the new normal. Netherlands, what's going on there?
Yeah, the Dutch authorities are planning to shorten the validity of the vaccination certificates starting from February the 1st. In line with the latest rules of the EU vaccination certificate, the Netherlands will accept only vaccination certificates that indicate the holder has taken the last vaccine dose within the last 9 months. For those travellers who don't hold a valid vaccination passport, as per the new rules, they will be denied entry into the Netherlands. On the other hand, those who receive a booster shot will be able to enter the Netherlands without having to undergo strict entry rules, as long as the country doesn't impose testing requirements or any other national rules.
All right, and Cyprus, and I think Cyprus, out of all the countries on they must have been listening to this at one stage, because Cyprus has got it right.
I'm sure they did. They listened to the Queen of the World. That's what they done, Maria.
Right.
All passengers, regardless of their vaccination status, will be obliged to present a negative result of the COVID-19 PCR test no older than 48 hours upon their arrival in Cyprus, the government has announced. Such decision comes as a response to the rapid spread again of the Omicron variant that has affected many European and worldwide countries up to this point. According to authorities in Cyprus, the decision will be applied to all travellers aged over 12, regardless of their country of origin or their vaccination status.
Right? I mean, that's what I just didn't get, is that if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, you can still carry that sucker. So why should anybody not be tested? I mean, Cyprus is doing it upon arrival because that's the only thing that they can handle. But, you know, why can't they be testing before you get on a plane? That's the point of contact, the point of origin is where they should be testing before they let you on a plane, vaccinated or non-vaccinated. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, the US now have their rule in place where you have to have a PCR test dated no more than 24 hours. So it is doable. You can see a country the size of the US, if they're expecting everybody to come in and have PCR tests within 24 hours, people are still traveling there. So it is a scenario that's easily enough managed for people. All right, it can be a bit of a pain in the backside, shall we say, for people to have to get it, but they're doing it if they want to travel. So not that I'm saying it's made much of a difference to the US, as their numbers are slightly out of control as well, but it's another, it's something in place to help prevent the spread of it. So yeah, I'm with you on it. I don't think it's a massive deal to expect people to test for a negative test 24, 48, 72 hours before departure.
Yeah. And Qantas has made an announcement.
Yeah, after a long absence, Qantas has started flying to South Africa once again. The airline has resumed thrice weekly return flights between Sydney and Johannesburg after last flying the route back in March 2020. From this week, the mid-morning departures will occur every Wednesday, Friday and Sunday, with the flight taking approximately 14 hours to Johannesburg's International Airport. The returning flight to Sydney will depart from Johannesburg every Wednesday, Friday and Sunday as well.
Well, that's good news.
It is, yeah, really good news. Yeah, so it's I mean, it opens the world up a little bit more for the South Africans once again. They've been badly hit during this pandemic, to say the least. So it's another route that's open for them.
And we've got crew questions.
Yeah, we do. We received a question this week from Bex, who wants to know if she's able to travel back from the USA to Brisbane via Sydney without having to do double quarantine. Basically, Bex is worried that she'd have to do 14 days on arrival in Sydney and then a further quarantine period on arrival in Brisbane. The good news, Bex, is that as per the Queensland rules, provided you're only transiting Sydney and on one through ticket and not leaving Sydney Airport, you are free to travel through to Brisbane, and provided you meet all the rules and regulations, you can also participate in the home self-isolation project rather than going into the mandatory government quarantine. What you'll need to do, though, is go to the following website for the full list of requirements to participate in a home quarantine. That website is www.qld.gov.au. That way you can check that you meet all the requirements and you can do the home isolation.
Well, if you don't do any of that, you can go play tennis.
Indeed, that's right. Or just dress up as Novak Djokovic and you'll be allowed free entry anyway.
I don't know, man. It's like one rule for one and another for the others. And the Australian, I love Australia and I love New Zealand, but some of these things that are coming out of there, I'm like, give your head a shake. Like, they've already expelled for the Australian Open. They've already expelled 4 people from the tennis thing. Yeah, I'm such a tennis fan. But they've expelled from the tournament. 4 people have quietly just, okay, well, Tennis Australia told us this, and then the law told us this. So we'll voluntarily leave because, the government rules over Tennis Australia, I would hope. So we'll happily leave. But no, we've got Novaks. Oh, it's Novak, isn't it?
He's a good name for him. I mean, it pretty much sums him up, I guess.
But I'm like, really? I just and then governments wonder why people get really, the working class get really, really pissed off. Yeah,
I mean, it's like you say, it's definitely one rule for one, for one rule for another, guaranteed. Joe Bloggs turned up and in the same situation, there's no way that he would still be in Australia at this point in time. All I can say is let's hope Novak doesn't get knocked down the first round, because if he does, it was a monumental waste of time.
You know what? Okay, never mind. I'll probably be hated for that, so I'm just not even going to say it. But yeah, you know me. See, I'm trying in 2022 to be politically correct, or
I can see you're doing well.
It's hard though. Can you tell?
I can see. I mean, you're literally, I can see you're starting to turn red as you're desperate to let it out.
I know, and it's painful. It's like I'm hanging on to my desk for dear life, thinking, "Oh, I can't. No, can't say that." Right. As soon as we get off air, I'm going to say everything I wanted to say.
You do it. You let it all go.
I will. It'll feel much better. I have to say that Crew Travel is brought to you weekly by Blue Marine Travel, who haven't lost a passenger since Lee Harris was born back in the late 1900s.
That is correct.
Yeah. And me too.
Yes, it is. Maybe you slightly earlier than me, but hey.
Don't want to talk about it. I'm suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Is that what? Yeah, that's what it is.
It's traumatized me this past birthday. Very traumatized.
Who knew that would happen with birthdays?
I know, right? Seriously.
Yeah.
Anyways, Lee, I got to say thank you ever so much. Of course, it is amazing to have you here weekly. We will make sure to provide all of the links below this interview when it airs. Do follow if you are looking at traveling. You know, we are still in the middle of the Caribbean season, but we will be heading back to the European, the Mediterranean season shortly. Travel's going to be heating up again, and we're all going to be looking for flights. So follow Lee on LinkedIn. We'll provide his link, as well as the Blue Marine Travel website. We'll provide that link. Any of the details or links that are needed will be on the Blue Marine Travel website.
Yep.
And yeah, you know, follow this show, click like and subscribe, and you'll be kept up to date throughout the next Mediterranean season.
Indeed, they get to see us every week. I mean, what more could people want?
I know, right?
Very
They
lucky.
don't tune in to see me. They don't tune in to see me. I know that for sure.
I'm pretty sure it's not me. That's for sure.
Then it must be the information. Maybe that's why the podcasts get actually a lot more exposure.
Maybe. I reckon it probably is.
Yeah, because they don't have to look at us then. They just have to hear us.
Look. Yeah. I mean, the only week we're good for is Halloween.
Well, you know what? Maybe what we'll have to do is we'll have to create, I don't know, some cartoon characters that you could do that virtual reality thing, right? Maybe we'll have to do that. People will enjoy that better.
That might be a better idea.
Yeah. Well, let us know in the comments below. Better be nice, because I will hunt you down. Thanks again, Lee. Have a great week, and same time, same place next week.
Indeed, you too. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Monday.
You've been watching another edition of Crew Travel right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I have been your host. We'll see you again next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're boarding passengers seated in zones E and F.